Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Today, we are going to talk about sutta, which sutta delivered to Mahapajapati Gautami. This sutta is from the Numerical Discourses, book of 8, chapter of Gautami. Gautami Vaggo, sutta number 3, Saṁkhittasutta. Several people, or many of us, have this thing that what the Buddha's teaching is exactly. How can we decipher, or how can we identify that this teaching is taught by Buddha and it is not mixed, or it is not someone else's view? So always in Buddha's teaching, very simply, Buddha has given the answers. And how to understand those sutta? So 8 kinds of teaching the Buddha taught to the disciples. And if those qualities or those 8 things exist in this Dhamma, then that is the teaching of Buddha. It is mentioned here. Sutta begins like this. Ekang samayang bhagava vesaliyang viharati mahavani kutagara salayang. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Mahavana in Vishala Vesali. And Mahavana, there is a great wood, and in there's a Kutagara Sala was there. The Buddha was dwelling at there. Athako Mahapajapati Gautami Yena Bhagava Tenupa Sankami. Then the Mahapajapati Gautami visited the Supreme Buddha. Upasankamitva Bhagavantang Abhivaditva Ekamantang Atthasi. As she approached Supreme Buddha, then first she worshipped and then sit down one side. Ekamantang Titakosa Mahapajapati Gautami Bhagavantang Etadavocha. So Mahapajapati Gautami, as she sat down one side, she talked with Supreme Buddha. She asked from the Supreme Buddha, Sadhume Bhante Bhagava Saṁkhittasutta Dhammam Desetu. Bhante, it will be very nice for me that Supreme Buddha teach me the Dhamma in a brief, in a summary. Supreme Buddha teach me the Dhamma. Yamaham Bhagavato Dhammam Sutva. Listening from the Supreme Buddha. Eka Upakatta Appamatta Atapini Pahitatta Vihareyanti. So I will hear it when I am alone, when I am in isolation. I will be drowned I will be diligent and strive, practice hardly, and I will try to live the life according to Dhamma, to practicing to achieve the Dhamma. So Bhante, for that, to develop that strength, develop that isolation, teach me the Dhamma in while I'm alone. I can I can study Dhamma, I can practice Dhamma. But so Supreme Buddha said this: Yeko tvang Gotami Dhamme jane yasi. Gotami, when or you may listen these things, you may hear this thing that or this kind of Dhamma you will hear. Ime Dhamma Saragaya Sangvatati. Saragaya Sangvatanti. This Dhamma develops passion in us. It leads toward passion. Saragaya, it means developing the tanha, desire. You know, this Dhamma leading our life toward tanha or desire. No viragaya, not for this passion. Sanyogaya Sangvatanti, no Visangyogaya. This Dhamma takes us, or this Dhamma, what you listen, it is create the bondages, not for detachment. Bondages, it means, or yoking, it means, we always make a connection from birth to birth, birth to birth, always want places to, holding somewhere. We make the, in summary, we can say, which creates the shackle in our life, that we may take the birth and birth again and again based on that bondages. So when you hear the Dhamma is leading toward bondage, not to detachment, then Buddha said, Achayaya Sangvatanti, no apachayaya. This Dhamma is take us. Means this Dhamma is to building up or accumulation, which is creating more and more, from one part, one life to another, that we mold ourselves, or we are building ourselves in that way. So those results will fall on us. Then the fourth one, Buddha says, then further, Mahichitaya Sangvatanti, no apichataya. This Buddha's teaching is for more desire, that strong desire to be built for, okay, this is okay, this is take this one, this one, this one, this one. When we listen something, oh, okay, you can have this all things. Something, the Dhamma which is said, okay, you can have many things. And this leads this teaching toward becoming lot of, not content, but to develop desire and more, lot of greed, lot of things that you are wanting. If teaching is take there, no apichataya, not for contentment, not for, okay, I don't want, not for fewer things, So, then asantuttitaya samvatanti, no santuttitaya. This Dhamma is take for lack of contentment, like satisfaction. Don't be satisfied with from anything, don't be happy, just have a more and more thing, more and more. There is no satisfaction in life. There is no happiness in this life. So, which the Dhamma, which the path leads toward, whatever teaching you hear, if it is taking us there, if you hear something like this, and not contentment, then Sanganikaya Sangvatanti, no Pavivekaya. The teaching what you hear, or the path what you hear, it's for crowding, or always explains, okay, enjoy, gather together, bound together, uh, No need for isolation. This Dhamma is not taking us to the isolation. It says, okay, open your eyes, just keep these things, talk with people, interact. That's it, only that thing, but not for, okay, you can separate yourself from the society, calm your body, calm your mind, and listen or meditate something. This teaching is not for that. Then, kosajjaya sangvattanti no viryarambhaya. The teaching which take us to the laziness is okay. No need to worry. Everything will happen as it is. You don't have to do anything. Stay as you are. If the teaching says something like this, and not for to arouse the energy, oh, this is very difficult path. This is very difficult life, but we have gained. And if we do not do something good, then what will happen to us? Without thinking, how can the energy arise? So the teaching is for laziness and not for energy. Dubbarataya sangvatanti no surabhatayati says that this teaching, Buddha's teaching, is to being difficult to support or being burdensome. Many of and not for not being unburdened. So simply, burdensome, it means the Buddha's teaching. When the teaching is started, like so many rituals are there, so many rituals like people do, and most of the times that these ritual was essential. Without this, you cannot do these things. Those are things. So those rituals become burden to people. These rituals become burden on the ideology also. Without this, or there are so many things like you have must to be vegan. You must do not wear the sleepers or those things. You must do these things, and which is not necessary. Unnecessary thing is put on you by this teaching. Remember, Buddha says, Gautami ekansena Gautami dhareyasi. Remember, remember this Gautami, Neso Dhammo, this category in solely. Ekansena, it means solely. This is Neso Dhammo. This is not the teaching. Neso Vinayo. This is not the training. Netang Sattu Sasananti. This is not the teacher's instructions. This is not the Supreme Buddha's teaching. How beautifully Buddha is explained here. What you listen from outside world, what you listen about, okay, the name of the, because today, in the name of Buddha, so many stuff has been mentioned. So many things we are talking about, lot of things. Means we cannot imagine how many things are there these people is talking about. Oh, this is also made by Buddha. This is also said by Buddha. And for us, now we are learning the Dhamma. We do not know much of the Pali. So how can we identify, okay, this is the teaching Buddha explained. And this is the perfect sutta for that. What the Buddha says, the teaching, which teaching? Which teaching is create us lust or tanha, greed or passion arise. Whatever you listen, okay, develop this lust. It is okay to do that. Then that is not the word by Buddha. When you hear which teaching asks you to create the bondages, then remember, this is not the teaching of Buddha. When the teaching is about building up, creating the formations, creating the sanskara from the eons and eons or generation by generation, what we do, we create the sankhara. That sankhara becomes the path for our next life. So that sankhara, if we creating, that is not the teaching Buddha explains. It's not just teaching for the strong desire. It says the Buddha explained, okay, you can have many things as much as you want. See, for the Buddhas, she's a nun now. She becomes a nun, and the teaching is explained to her. For monks and nuns, what the Buddha is simply said, bhikkhus, keep your goods unlimited, you know, have a maximum 3 robes. Okay, extra when you need it, then extra you can have, but 3 robes is sufficient. You can have this mandatory 8 things like atta parikkar, what we say, that thing you can have, not more than that. If uh, for today's condition now I'm also using the uh, computer and all these things, doesn't mean if I utilize it for something else, something and if I teach, okay, you can have these all things, every monk should have these things, it won't be the Buddha's teaching. Buddha's teaching is that minimize yourself. We are unable to do, that's our fault, but Buddha's teaching is so. If you hear that it is a teaching for the developing more and more things, developing desire for many things, then that is not Buddha's teaching. If you hear this teaching is for uh, not being satisfied, not contentment, not being happy, you know, then this is not the teaching Buddha teaches. If the teaching explains about having a lot of company, you know, go and be in crowded places. Usually, what happens in the crowded places? Unnecessary talks, unnecessary things, unnecessary bondage happens there. Yes, when the companies, the Buddha always mentioned, the company should be something like this, that when they are practicing the path, like in our monastery, there are 110, 120 monks usually lives in our main monastery. So there are this much people living in one place, but that place is called isolation also. Why? Because each monk is practicing isolation from these 6 senses, wanting to do that thing. Time to time we distract from here to there, but the teaching said something. So when you hear that Buddha is explained, okay, enjoy, make a lot of talk with a lot of people, no need to follow precepts, something like this, then that is not the teaching of Buddha. When the teaching said, okay, don't worry, tomorrow will be good, nothing to worry about in this life. Don't worry about that. Next life you can complete the path. And next, today you don't have to do anything. You get the human life, enjoy your life, and that much. Then that is leading toward laziness. It is not a teaching of Buddha. When the teaching is says, okay, do the unnecessary rituals. Like in Buddha's time, there were very few rituals. For the society, some rituals is needed. For the society, rituals are needed. But if you think about that, that is the path for purifications. Those rituals are for the purifications. Those rituals will make you enlightened, which leads you on the path. That is not the Buddha's teaching. Like time to time, there is happened the birth ceremony. You know, after the being born, the cutting hair, or then the writing ceremony or food eating ceremony happens time to time. You know, so those are all rituals. It is not mandatory in Dhamma. Anyone want to do, they can have. Some of the precepts that people enforce on us, which is not given by the Buddha, precepts are something to become very easy life, you know, those. So Buddha says these 8 things, whenever you Gautami listens from someone else, whenever you hear, remember, these are not these are not the teaching. of Buddha. Ekansena means only means immediately understand this is not the teaching of Buddha. Then Supreme Buddha said further, what he says? Yecha kotvam Gautami dhamme janayasi. When Gautami, you listen this, when you hear this, when you know this, ime dhamma, this teaching, viragaya samvattanti. This teaching leads to dispassion. Detach ourselves, no developing tanha, not for no saraga and not for the passion. Remember, this is the teaching of Buddha. This is the teaching of Buddha. See, in all the suttas, Supreme Buddha gave the Dhamma to everyone. Even the people who do not want to liberate. People come to the Buddha and they ask, Bhante, how to be happy? And Buddha gave the greatest happiness to detach yourself. If you want to achieve the happiness in some simple life, Buddha says, okay, this passion, give it up. Yesterday I was reading one sutta, or 2 days before I was delivered that sutta. I explain also, and I was reading again. It is in Saṁkhittasutta Nikaya. The one deity come to the Supreme Buddha and he says, Bhante, when our life is decaying, finishing up, our death is sooner, closer to us. When we cannot stop our aging and we can see the death is visible, then what we should do? We should develop a lot of meritorious action. We should do a lot of meritorious deeds, remembering the punya, and we should practice where we can achieve the punyas. In reply of that, Buddha says, when our age is coming, finishing, we have a very short life. When we cannot stop our aging and the death is in front of us, in that time, we should develop to escape from the samsara. We should try to get rid of raga, desa, moha. In that time, we should develop dispassion. That is in Saṁkhittasutta Nikaya, first chapter, book, sutta number 2, Nekkhamma Sutta. Simply Buddha says, even for the deities, they are asking about meritorious action. Definitely meritorious action is good. But the Supreme Buddha's core teaching, most focus is for what? To escape from this suffering, escape from this samsara. For what? Because this passion, this raga, leads us toward the 4 bad destinations. Lead this raga toward where? To again and again being born in this samsara. Or that. And that's why Buddha says, Ime Dhamma Viragaya Samvattanti. When this teaching, when you what the teaching you hear or know, that this teaching led to dispassion, not for passion. Remember, that is the Buddha's teaching. Visanyogaya Samvattanti, no sanyogaya. This teaching leads to anyoking, not foyoking. Simply, this does not create the bondage, but detachment from everywhere. We find time to time we need. We usually we make the relations, we make the attachment towards so many worldly things, like simply that we do. When the people go to the aquarium, some of the old people or young people, they see the beautiful fishes, and what they think, how beautiful their life is. I also want to be born like that. How colorful, how wonderful. What has happened there? That is bondage what we created. That is the building what we have done. That thing. With this so slowly. We know later on we will finish. Like in beautiful words, we can say what the Buddha says to the Suppavasa when she gave the birth to the Sivli Bhante. Sivli Bhante born by 7 years of being in womb, and 7 years, 7 months, 7 days, something. And then when he born, the 7 days of food offering she did to the Mahasangha. And the last day, seventh day, when the Punyanumodana was happening, when the Marys was sharing, in that time, her son, the Shivli, uh, talked with the Sariputta Bhante. Sariputta Bhante asked from him, "How are you, child?" So he said, "Bhante, I was in the womb with the all the dirt. I was being stuck like this for the 7 years. How I would be." And the mother was very happy, very joyous because her son is communicating, conversing with the Sariputta Bhante, the chief disciple of Supreme Buddha. Supreme Buddha was watching this entire thing, and simply Supreme Buddha asked from her, "Do you want a son like this again?" She said, "Bhante, if my son is conversing with the Sariputta Bhante, if such a son is happening, I am ready to have a 7 sons more." And Supreme Buddha immediately remind her 7 years of keeping the son in womb, 7 months, 7 days of labor pain. Do you want to suffer like that again? Immediately she understand. No, Bhante, I do not want another son anymore. That was the bondage. That was the building up. She was doing that. Immediately Supreme Buddha reminded her, and she was a stream enterer, and reminding her was necessary on that time. Buddha did. Where immediately we can understand that is a teaching from the Buddha. Apachayaya sangvatiti, no apachayaya. Apichataya sangvatati, no mahichataya. Supreme Buddha's when the teaching, when you hear, this is to make you, what it called, the fewness of desires. So many things you should not carry. A few things like monks, when they ordain, they take the 3 robes, one ball, the belt, and a needle, thread, and the small cup, or cup is necessary, so cup, and uh, to clean the water, or we can say the net or strainer, simple strainer. These are the few things the monks must carry. That is the monk's life. Okay. Then furthermore, Supreme Buddha said, okay, you can have a short, small towel, not so many things. You know that uh, Jivaka, in Buddha's time, he said to the Buddha, Bhante, uh, the monks, they travel a lot, and then there are a lot of sicknesses happening in this world. And the monks, they wear the robe which is thrown outside the clothes. They gather together, they wash it, and then they sew the robe with their own hand. And some of the time it is very means it's not hygienic. So Bhante, give us opportunity to the common householder people, that when we offer the robe to monks, they should accept. And Buddha saw in that, like, okay, this can happen. So Buddha gave the permission to the bhikkhus, because you can receive the robes, you can receive the clothes from the common people, what they have prepared. So when the Buddha gave permission, everywhere this word spread. And people were very happy. Now today we have opportunity to give such a robe to the bhikkhus, you know. And the rainy retreat finished, so people offered a lot of robe, because that time there was no teaching of 3 robes. Because when the monks was sewing from their own hand, they don't have a lot of things to carry. They don't need so many things, because they are doing. And that time the clothes were very short. you know Mostly people throw the clothes when someone has passed away, so on their dead body, whatever the clothes are there, because there was no lightning or fire. You don't cremate them. That time they just throw them in the forest. So after devouring by animals and after decaying the body, the clothes are still there, you know. So some of the clothes the people gather, or monks gather, and they sew. So some of the time people throw that cloth because of the dirt or the stains, those things. So it's not easy to found so many clothes. That's why monks do not have much. But now Buddha gave the permission for the robe, then people offered a lot. So monks, what they did, when they were traveling from this monastery to the next, they make the pile of the robes, tied them with the one robe, and put on their shoulder, and then they started to take it. Buddha saw these things, and my teaching us for to make the monk with the fewer things. And now, when I gave the permission for the robe, uh, monks are carrying a lot of like a carriage, you know. So they are taking like this. So Buddha in that winter time sat down on the outside under a tree and started to wear one by one, and four robes he found at his in. So Buddha gave the permission for the three robes. Fourth robe is like when you wear the robe with the double cloth, that is become the one. So the three robes, Buddha make the permission. See, so even in that time also, Buddha did not say, okay, you can have many things. Buddha did not say, monks, you should understand by yourself. No, Buddha says, few things is very good, not for this. Teaching. So entire Vinaya teaches for that. This is the thing. When you hear something from that, okay, do not develop desire for many things. Try to contain yourself, you know. Few things is okay. What you gain, be happy in that. Next one is that content. Fewer things are good. Being content, that is called santutya sangvatanti. No asantuti. You know, being that is a good thing. Buddha explained. Pavivekaya sangvatanti. No sanganikaya. Time to time, even after attaining enlightenment, what the Buddha did? I am going for isolation. I am going for meditation practices. Buddha encourage others, learn the Dhamma, go in isolated places, spend your time, this meditation, study Dhamma. For what? So as you practice meditation, as you study Dhamma, what will happen? You will slowly understand the meaning of it, and your path to enlightenment or path liberation will start from there. Because when you are in crowd, every time what you are listening, these are the problems happening to the office, these are the problem happening to the home, what to cook, what to do, when to clean, the marriage ceremonies, and have birthday celebrations, new year, thanksgiving, these all things comes together. Then we do not have the isolated time to think about our age, that I am a subject of aging, I am subject of sickness, I am subject of death. There is no time to think of. But when you are in isolation, when you are learning Dhamma, when you are practicing Dhamma, what happened? You can say, yes, I am subject of birth. I haven't escaped from it. I am subject of aging. I haven't stopped that aging yet. I am subject to death. I haven't stopped. I am subject to sickness. I will be sick. I haven't stopped it yet. When we think of that, let me practice the path which stops from aging, sickness, and death. In short, which stops from the suffering in samsara. Such a teaching comes pavivekaya, for the isolation, for seclusion, not for crowding. When you hear the Dhamma, which is for the virya rambaya sangvattanti no kosajaya, which teaching is explains you for the arousal of energy. For what? Akusalanang dhammanang pahanaya. The akusala which is exist in us life. So pahanaya chandang janeti vayamati viryang aravati chittang pagganati padati. When you identify that this akusala, these unwholesome things, unwholesome actions or unwholesome thought have in your life, to get rid of that, develops desire, develop will, effort it, make the stronger determination, and work hard to get rid of, remove that unwholesome thing. That is called arousal of energy. The akusala, which is not risen yet, it is the roots or the seeds are still inside, like a younger child or the smaller one. When that kid is for the 15 or 20, 15, 7, 16 or 10 years old, he doesn't know what his sexual misconduct is. But the roots of that is there. The person who is a younger age doesn't know what is intoxication is, what is drugs are, doesn't know. But the roots in the society, in us, it exists there. That's why as soon as we take, we develop the desire for this. As a newborn kid doesn't know how to steal, but the roots of that is still exist. As the time comes, then we develop those things. You know. So these are akusala, which is not risen yet. Now we are aged. We have seen all the wrong things, what is happening in our life. So we can say, this is akusala that is in myself. Let me remove this. But there are still some akusala. There are still some unwholesome things, which is not risen yet, which we haven't practiced yet. To get rid of that, this is the arousal of energy. And energy to develop for what? To wholesome actions, wholesome deeds, which is not yet in my life. There are so many things we haven't done, so many good things we haven't done. Never think of that. There are a lot of people who doesn't know the meditation. There are a lot of people who doesn't know what is called the precepts, what is called the virtue. To teaching them, to understanding, these are the wholesome things. People doesn't know what is generosity and what effects on others. People doesn't know what is the compassion. We talked about compassion. So world talked about compassion, but in the true depth, we don't understand that. To understanding, to developing, to taking in our life, for that we need to develop willpower. We need the effort, the energy, the determination of mind. That is called arousal of energy. To energy. Viryarambhaya. And then finally, the energy for what? The goodness what exists in this day, today. There are a lot of good things in our life. Every individual person has a goodness in their life. To preserve that innocence, to preserve that goodness, or expand that goodness, develop that, make it bigger, make it more and more that goodness. Like someone is very generous person, and the person see this generosity makes me happy. Let me keep that. Let me preserve this generosity. Whatever cause happened, I will not stop to be generous. No one can break my will of to giving the generosity, practicing generosity. I will practice that for that determination, because there are a lot of people who cheat. There are a lot of people who take advantage of us. And when that happens, we lose the faith on humanity. But the goodness, good thing, the good kind at heart, what it thinks, okay, this person may be wrong. I will do something good. I will keep practicing. Not there, I will do somewhere else. But that to practice this goodness, it needs energy, effort. And that is Virya Rambhaya Sangati. Buddha's teaching is to develop the energy. All the suttas, what Buddha says, this world is burning, burning with birth, aging, sickness, and death. This world is burning by lust, hatred, delusion. Remove this fire. For that, we need energy. Teaching is there. No kosa jai. Buddha never says be lazy. See, there is a beautiful story of that. One day, one monk, what he did, he said, he thought by himself, he said, I am now non-returner, like a third fruit of enlightenment. I am a non-returner. Rest of the path, as achieving the enlightenment, that is the final stage, enlightenment. So, rest of the path I will finish in the upper Brahma world. And from that day, he stopped to work hard. Work hard. He was easily going for alms round, placing, helping other monks, and those are all the generous things he started to do. Buddha saw this monk and he said, Monk, did you finish your task? Or did you stop your practice? And he said, Bhante, I am now the non-returner. I am thinking to finish this suffering, finish this path in the upper Brahma world. So Buddha gave the beautiful simile. He said, the dirt or the feces or what we throw every day, from that, even in the smallest amount, you can have the beach. The smell, the texture is a different than the huge pile of this. He said, no, but the huge pile has the same smell. The bad odor is there. Small amount is also have a bad odor. Buddha says in the same way, even the smallest stain exists in our life, it is still a suffering. Smallest amount of. Do not wait for the tomorrow. Finish now. Be enlightenment today. This monk listened from, understand what the teacher is saying. He went immediately inside, practiced Dhamma couple of days, and when he rose up from that seat, he was enlightened. What is that? Buddha did not approve the laziness. Today, monks, like couple of monks, we may have that laziness tendency, but it is not the teaching of Buddha. Buddha always encouraged, be precise, practice Dhamma. That is things. Dubbharataya, sorry, Surabhataya Samvattanti, no Dubbharataya. This Dhamma, this all the Vinaya, the precepts, these precepts is for the pleasant life of monks, not to make it hard. Make it easier life. Teaching is always for easier life, not for making something very hard or harsh decision. No, Buddha's teaching is very simple. It makes our life very, very without any trouble, without any what it called the hidden meaning or dragging or lagging. No, his teaching is very simple, which makes our life more and more simple. Simple life, happy. One day, I still remember, not all, but couple of things. But this thing I strongly remember. In our monastery, there are the monks. They high ordinate. Ordination is one. Higher ordination is becoming upasampada. So it is in a very huge group, like 200 monks or something like this amount of monk, like 180, 200, 250. This amount of monks, they become high ordinate. So always before high ordination, so many monks think that now we have to practice 227 precepts. It is very, very so much. So the teacher, he has our teacher, Loku Swaminathan, has a huge compassion. He always preached. He taught us on that time. He said, for all the monks, are you frightened that these are the precepts makes you? These are so many precepts that you are going to follow? And monk said, yes, Bhante. Don't think like that. Teaching the precepts, what it makes, it separates you from all the worldly things, and your monk life becomes very pleased, very happy, very nice. You don't have to think anything else. This is the Dhamma practice. Think of the precepts will make your life easier. It is not a burden. Precepts makes our life easier, not very hard. You don't have to think of anything else. This is the teaching. That's all. And what means I am unable to express in that way. But when the teacher said this to us, when we are identity, all the fear, all the worries were lifted up. Nothing. That is the goodness of teaching. Buddha says, this teaching is for make our life easier, simpler, make our life unburdensome, not with a burden. This practice should be easier, not hardsome. That thing we should understand. Not to make no unnecessary things, Buddha explains, no unnecessary things. Which is mandatory, which is important, only those things are mentioned. And that is Dhamma. So Supreme Buddha say, Ekansena Gautami. When you hear these all things, remember solely that these things, Dhareyasi, acknowledge it, take it as Eso Dhammo. This is the teaching of Buddha. Eso Vinayo. This is the teaching. This is the Vinaya. This is the practice. This is the path. Etang Sattu Sasanang. This is the Supreme Buddha's dispensation or Supreme Buddha's. This is the teaching taught by Supreme Buddha. Simple. So whenever you listen Dhamma, what you should do, tick it, make the tick marks. Okay, this I learned. Yeah, this is things. It is come from there. This is thing. This is thing. This is thing. Oh, this is from the Buddha's teaching, not someone else said. These are the teachings. So it will be very easy for us to identify the teaching, what is taught by Buddha and which is not. Because by the name of Buddha, people had mentioned these all things there. And sometimes it becomes very hard. So that's all for today. This is the beautiful sutta. Remember, listen it a couple of times, read a couple of times. And after listening this Mahapajapati Gautami as a nun, she practiced Dhammapada very easily, So may this Saṁkhittasutta be helpful for all of you to understand the Supreme Buddha's teaching. May this sutta be helpful for you to practice this teaching properly. May this sutta be helpful for all you to understand the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Buddha Bante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Namo Buddhaya.
Yeah. Um, First is the nun Gautami.
Yes.
So I believe that the nun has much more precepts than the monks, right?
Yes.
300 something.
Yes.
So yeah, actually I want to ask that thing about the burdensome. But of course, Bante, you shared with us already what the teacher said.
Mm.
Now, of course, the nun will have much more burdensome, much more, right? So that's
No,
one thing. How, Yeah, because
no,
there are there are more precepts,
no,
and
simple
it's very
teaching.
inconvenient, right, Bante?
The precepts is something like this, Harry. Why the nuns have the more precepts? Because of the female body.
Mm-hmm.
Female body. So the simply say the monthly cycle happens, the periods happen. For the needing, requirement, the clothes, the cleaning, for those things, Supreme Buddha made the precepts. Some of the time, there is an unprotected environment for women in the society. So some of the precepts are for that. Be
Mm-hmm.
mindful, not to walk like this, not to be this. For that is for the security. Nuns' precepts, uh, 90% precepts are same as the monks have, but the couple of like four parajika is same for all nuns and uh, monks. But the Sanghadisesas, like second precept, which is punishable offense, those have the multiple because they have more chances to uh, engage in those things because of the body, because of the way of their men with, you know, that's all. To make their Dhamma life easier, make their Dhamma life easier, they have more precepts to follow.
To the
It
expense of the
doesn't,
biological, Bante? You
yes,
know?
yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
And this precept does not happen in one day.
Mm-hmm,
It happens when the people did the offense. When the nun did something foolish thing
mm-hmm,
and which is not suitable for practicing our holy life, Buddha says, from now on, nuns should not do these things.
mm-hmm. Oh, just one offense.
Yes,
Then they cannot.
when they did
Okay.
the offense, then Buddha made the precepts not to do these things because it is
Oh,
not for Dhamma. Buddha did not say, okay, these are the 315 precepts you should practice. No, Buddha says when the nuns did these all things, and whenever someone do wrong,
mm-hmm,
these nuns goes to the Buddha and says, Bante, this she did these things. Buddha says that is not for the holy life.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Make the precepts from that.
Oh, okay.
Such a way these precepts happens there for the monks also. When Sariputta Bante said, Bante, how beautiful! Because in early 20 years of the Buddha's dispensation, there was no precepts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
After 25 years, last 45 years of dispensation, Supreme Buddha taught the teaching. The last 25 years, there was a time when the precepts happened. But earlier 15 to 20 years, Buddha did not give precepts. There was no something like this because all the monks, they were living their life according to this robe suits on them. They were already on the path. They listen Dhamma, they become practice and they become enlightened. Enlightened monk doesn't need any precepts. He is already protecting those things. So when the offense happened, then the Buddha said these are the precepts. So what those precepts are for what? To stop us from harming our holy life.
mm-hmm,
That's all, not for anything else. Okay, Harry? It is not burdensome. Like
mm-hmm,
Buddha make the precepts. Don't dig the soil. That is for monks because monks were doing. So in a way, I cannot do farming
mm-hmm,
because if my mind does not cope with the Dhamma, I will say I want to be a monk and I will do farming, I will do gardening, I will do all these things, and I will engage myself in only and only that. Where is my holy life practice? It will be finished there. So that's why Buddha says no, digging soil is not good because it is called by others. Oh, how the Supreme Buddha's disciples digging the soil. People also made the comments. That's why. So the precepts happens later time, but it was not for the burden. It was to make the monks and nuns' life easier. Who did the more offense? The Buddha made the more precepts. Okay? So
mm-hmm,
don't
mm-hmm.
think that they have to bear a lot of precepts now. And now, in this current condition, the chain of nuns' ordination has already broken. Whoever ordained today, they are not the ordained by the chain, but they are just practicing 10 precepts in a way to achieve the higher goal. That's all. Okay?
Thank
Okay.
you, Bante. Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu.
So I was just wondering, this could be just like a bigger, you might not have time to like answer maybe, but kind of it was just I was just thinking about it earlier too, and right now as you mentioned like the nuns and so why do you think we don't see, especially Theravada nuns kind of as like a kind of like
Yes.
at the forefront, like how
Yeah.
we see Bhantes, or taking kind of like in a leadership position maybe like I feel like, if we had those figures, it might be, it probably would attract a lot more nuns, younger nuns, like,
Yeah.
in the Sangha maybe.
Yes. Um, as I was saying to Harry, the chain. of being nuns is broken. Like no one can take the robe by themselves and wear, and they cannot call themselves as a nun. It is a procedure which is made for, and in the time period like 1,000 years back, the chain was broken. So for the 600 or 900 years, something like that, uh, there was no nun in the world. Later time, some of the monk thought women should have that things. The chain is from the Buddha's time, with chain from the Mahapajapati Gautami, it is finished. But some of the monk thought, like a Mahayana monk also thought, okay, nun should be exist there, and then so that they started to give the ordination. For the higher ordination, there is a one precept called minimum 10 nuns of higher ordination, or minimum 3 should be there too, or 4. 10 one should be there to high ordinate another nun. If there is no nun, how can someone high ordinate? Second thing, for the if someone, any monk made the nun as a bhikkhuni, even though she will need approval of both sanghas, for the monks and from the nuns. But if there is no existence, how can she get approved? In Buddha's time, what you are saying, that is truly, you read so many sutta, there is a bhikkhuni vagga, and those bhikkhunis, what they have done, you can't imagine. Means what you are saying, that will happen. Mahapajapati Gautami, she speaks Dhamma. Uh, Patachara, Vinaya, when she's talked about impermanent, people were motivated. They become enlightened just by listening her. Khema was the like a Sariputta Bante. Equal of Sariputta Bante was the Khema. Buddha praised those nuns. Praise. Uh, Uppalvanna, she was like a psychic power. No other nuns can have such a power they hold. And in the Buddha's time, they hold a special place also. Buddha says, in my disciple, schema is the foremost in the wisdom, in the non-disciples. Those are things. Buddha made those rules. Buddha praised them. And because of that, this Dhamma traveled in so many countries. In Sri Lanka, there was a nun's, King Ashoka's daughter became a nun, and she took that nun's ordination to Sri Lanka, and entire the family become those things. But later time, this nuns, because see, because of the geography, because of the culture, for the nun to traveling alone or resistance becomes a little bit difficult. And when the Muslims attacked to India, or some of the or in India also, there were a lot of changes happened. In that time, the nuns were unable to survive, and because of that, that chains broken. I am not happy with that. If today that chain is alive, you will not, we think, um, if you, anyone, one of you have learned or read the poems of nuns, the poems of Therigatha, marvelous explanations. They can do so much good things. That power we lost, and it cannot revive again by me or by anyone else, because that monk's generation is still continuing. One day it will also break. And one day it will also break. Up to that, we have to keep this chain.
Yes, thank you. But I learned a lot of new things. Just a follow-up question is like, so basically a monk and a nun cannot stay at the same monastery, right?
It won't be ethical. It's not
Oh,
suitable,
okay. Even though
because
like they follow the precepts.
it cannot happen. That attraction is too much. It's too much attraction. For 5 years, for 10 years, they will follow. Buddha's teaching are there for the nuns monastery. They should dwell nearby. They should dwell where the monks are dwelling, but the nearby, not in their cottage, not in their same monastery. Because Monks has to follow celibacy life. Nuns has to follow celibacy life. There are winter, there are summer, there are rain. In the nun, if she get wet, what will happen? The robe will come. Our eyes look something. Thought process happen something. Every day something is happening. How much we can restrain? We don't know. And that happen a lot. Even today also, wherever in the you see, there are still in some of the places these two together living for the 5 years are good, for couple of years are good, but later on they fall under that same trap. For outside society they cannot show, but there is a chances they will break the precepts. Means even in the same, you see the whole society today, neighbors also have that relationships, even with faithful men and women. When they are married, they said we will be faithful each other, but we see in the society they are cheating still happen. They promised each other until the death happens. So something like this. Okay, so we cannot say, that's why Buddha says no, that you should stay celibacy, and not good for not for good for the monk's life, and not good for nun's life, that they should stay together whenever that happen. Because my own eyes, I have seen that new trend is started and a couple of people are living together, and I have seen what they have done. They have polluted the dispensation of Buddha. They have polluted the holy life, and now they are just wearing this robe as a customary thing. They are doing only rituals. Their only things. Their holy path is totally broken. There is no chances they can go more further. Why? Because Buddha's teaching is for this Dhamma, not for us. So that's why it's there. And I am opposed of it. To the monk and nun should stay together. No, they should have a separate places. Not should be very far, where the monks can look after, or nuns can be take the advice from the monks. That thing happened, but not in the same compound. It will be very difficult.